Okay. Well, welcome everyone. I do think that everybody else will actually just join us on the way. It's fundamentally important that we actually respect time, and in that way, we're actually just respecting each other. In that way, so I do think that we will continue with today's sessions, and those who actually, will join in will actually just catch us on the way. The name is Malik Vazi. I'm actually based in Johannesburg. exMK, that's effectively where myself and Omri actually come from, but we see ourselves as effectively more South Africans more than anything else. We're one of those people who actually believe, that the country actually does come first, in a number of ways. And even if we do have our own ideological views, but at the end, we effectively are South Africans, and that's effectively that. So we do seek to find solutions to problems that actually exist in society. And for those who might not be aware, we actually started sometime in September last year a series of strategic dialogues, and these, of course, were also done, in some cases, they were actually done when we had problems of load shedding and all sorts of other issues. But fundamentally, we discussed a whole lot of topics. And one of those was to say, how do we effectively improve the governance, in the state and effectively among the political parties. And in this case, specifically, Omri had an idea of a one member, one vote, and effectively that being implemented in the ANC, and then, of course, as a way of addressing society's problems, because the reality here is that um, the country and the ANC at this particular stage, they are actually quite intertwined. And therefore, how the ANC elects its leaders is actually quite important. And that's where Omri's contribution effectively came in. He did prepare a document called One Member, One Vote, and Comrade Terry Zalane also did really help him, because one of the things that we wanted to do is not to actually just talk for the sake of talking. We wanted to actually come up with solutions at the end. Can it be done? That's effectively that. So Terry and his background in running national elections was obviously an obvious choice, and also he had an understanding of the psychology, or the mentality of not only of an average voter, but effectively of the ANC voter, an ANC member. So we partnered Terry and Omri Mufale to actually just say, can this be done? Can it actually work? And they produced a document which we then forwarded it to the ANC chief of policy, Jeff Hadebe. And then effectively, we know that in the previous, or rather the recent ANC conference, there was a discussion on one member, one vote within the ANC, and we see that as a positive. Now, we understand that the conference is actually continuing to the next phase, which is the elective conference in December, and that is effectively where final definitive decisions by the party will actually be taken there. So we sort of then felt that to buttress those efforts, it was important to have a follow-up session to look at the technical implications, or rather the mechanisms. How can a one member, one vote work, be implemented, and effectively then the next phase, obviously, after that will be to engage those who will be lucky enough to be attending the conference of the ANC then, to lobby for this as a way of saving, or rather contributing towards, a much more better governance than the one that we have, and we actually know, the root cause of. But today it's really more about positive issues, not about negative issues. So I will then introduce quickly our two main protagonists, if I can put it that way. Um, as I said, Terry Telane is effectively our tar, if I can put it that way, of elections. And tar, I mean, I'm sorry to actually just own him and say our, but in this case is effectively really referring to his know-how on how to run elections. And his profile is public profile. He actually does this type of work for private institutions and, SRCs in universities and elsewhere. So he will be able to actually give us a sense, of how that actually works. And Omri, we know Omri. I mean, like, it's very difficult not to actually know him. He's always on our screens. He's always, as I like it, to call it, always going there where some people don't feel comfortable to go there. And he never disappoints in that. And of course, I need to declare that the two of us have got a very special relationship in that sense. We've known each other for a bit of time now, and we are quite good friends in that. So I wanted to declare that. Terry, maybe let's just hand over to you. You can probably just start by greeting everybody else, but most importantly, given where you are standing on the side of the road to be able to share your time with us. I will then say we just get on with business, and tell us one member, one vote. How can it be done? Now, we understand the necessity of it, so we're not going to go to the theory. The math is very straightforward, but behind the math is to actually say, can it be done? And what needs to be done in order to make sure that it is done. I hand over to you, just to actually just greet everybody else and, of course, get on with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Malik, and everyone who is part of this conversation this evening. As already indicated, Terry Tselane, I'm part of an organization called IMSA, or Institute of Election Management Services in Africa, which I established after I left the IEC, having served within the leadership structures of the IEC for almost 20 years. Now, I'm just going to go through this presentation very quickly. There is a document, as alluded earlier on, that has already been submitted. This document indicated the reasons why we are motivating for one member, one vote. And if I could just outline those factors very quickly, is that the current system is vulnerable to manipulation. Secondly, that it does not allow for meaningful influence of all members. And the third is that only few individuals really determine the destiny of many, in a sense that it is only those who are appointed as delegates who then in reality determine the leadership of the movement. And the fourth one is that the role of money and its influence in election has become very, very dangerous and beginning to have a very negative effect in the organization. And related to that is the last point, which is that of vote buying, which has made the system even more cumbersome and more problematic. So we are recommending a new system. That new system is going to be based on one member, one vote. And we are not for a moment suggesting that it is panacea to all the problems that are there. Of course, there are many other structures that are aimed at trying to deal with the issues that are currently, within the organization, and therefore we're not dealing with those aspects. Comrade Omri has dealt with the issue of how we can ensure a meaningful influence and participation by women, and also by different regions in the organization, and therefore I'm not going to go into the detail around that. He can talk about that if we still have time. So the system that we are trying to advocate for here, it's a system that will really minimize incidents of vote buying or the manipulation that currently exists within the organization. And then perhaps in terms of now the implementation, one has got to start firstly with the fact that the issues that I have raised, that Comrade Omri is raising, would have to be contained in what we call the election rules. In other words, the election rules will outline a mechanism that can be put in place on, firstly, ensuring that all regions are represented, and secondly, that women have got meaningful influence and participation in the organization. There are certain elements that are already there within the current constitution, as you may be aware, that it is compulsory for a certain percentage of women to be elected in leadership positions. And that is mandatory for all the structures of the organization. So this aspect that I have just mentioned would therefore have to be incorporated in the election rules. So the election rules will essentially, or the election guidelines will essentially indicate some of the key aspects that have got to be taken in consideration in the management of an election. The first aspect that we are advocating for as part of this new system is to deal with the membership audit. Why do we want an audit to take place? The audit, it's important to ensure that only those who are eligible to participate in the process do participate in the process, and then those that are not entitled to participate should not have an opportunity to influence the process at all. So this can be done in a manner that the branches have actually been audited. We can create an electronic system that would actually make sure that every member is captured into the system. You know, there are many systems that we can actually use in order to be able to make sure that indeed the person who is saying is a member, you can actually be able to see that particular person, you can be able to see that it is that member. You can have a picture, you can have a mechanism where you're using either a facial recognition or any other mechanism to make sure that a person who is participating is indeed a member participating. So the membership audit, to that extent, is very, very important. On the nomination process, there is noise. I'm not too sure it's coming from someone called Baba, if I'm not mistaken. If you could just perhaps mute a little bit. So, in order for the elections of this nature to take place, you've got to visualize what normally happens in the national election. So it means you've got to create what you call the election timetable. The election timetable will contain key milestones that have got to be achieved before you have an election. In other words, you'll have an indication of when the nominations start and when the nominations stop. When are you going to be doing the auditing of members? All these processes would actually, the key milestones basically, would actually be contained within the election timetable. And a nomination would therefore also now happen from the branch level for all the structures within the organization. Now, I know that some might think that this is cumbersome. We are advocating basically a hybrid system here. If we were to open all the voting stations take here as a voting station per ward or a voting station per branch. So, like in a normal national elections, you would allow individuals who want to vote to go to a voting station. There will be an independent entity that is going to be managing the electoral process. So if you've got 5,000 wards in the country, you would open all those areas in order for members in those specific areas to participate. Firstly, of course, after you've dealt with the issue of nomination, issue of ensuring that you've got the correct members in a particular voting area. So you open all the voting stations. These voting stations, or let's call them wards, or let's not use the branch, but it's a branch basically. It's a school. It's a facility in a ward that people can go to go and cast a vote, just like in the normal elections. But because if you take in consideration that there are going to be probably more than 1 million, let's say the membership ends up being 2 million people, you do not want to end up now having long queues at the voting station level. And then therefore you introduce, as part of the hybrid system, an electronic mechanism. Those individuals who've got access to devices are able to vote either on the smartphones or laptop or any smart devices that a person has. And after a person has voted, you close voting on the electronic platform. Perhaps you close voting on the electronic platform a month before you actually open the voting stations. The reason why you are doing that is because you want to make sure that the voters' roll that you will have at the voting station only contains the names of people who have not voted yet. Those who have already voted will not participate in the process because their names would have been captured in any case. So the reason why I was talking about the issue of election timetable and saying that you have the key milestones, one of those milestones, for instance, will be saying you close in for electronic voting by a particular time. You open from a particular time, you close for a particular time. And then a month later, when you have done all the necessary audit and having ensured that all those individuals are blocked from participating, and then you produce a voter's roll that does not contain the name of people who have voted. So the voter's roll will contain only the names of those individuals who do not have access to the technology, who may feel intimidated for one reason or another by the technology, and that they go to a voting station to go and vote for the candidates that they want to vote for. Of course, what it means is that another mechanism has got to be created in terms of which the voters know their candidates, so you can have their bio on the system. You create a special website where within the website of the movement, you can create a separate website that is, or site that is only going to be focusing on the electoral process. So the electronic mechanism is going to be embedded within that particular arrangement. So essentially, that's how we see this. The electronic system will be secure and encrypted and safe. It must make sure that all personal information of individuals is encrypted so that no one can see how people have voted. But also, the system must be fully auditable. And I'm saying this thing because already there are some elements of this kind of systems operating. There are quite a number of people who are already using this system. We, for instance, from the side of IMSA, have used the system in the management of the elections last year at Venda University, and we are using the same system now again at Venda for the SRC elections, as well as hopefully at Val University of Technology. The majority of tertiary institutions are already using the electronic systems for students to participate in the electoral processes. So there is no reason why we also can't begin to introduce this particular system. And as I suggested, using electronic system minimizes the number of people who will actually be going to the voting station, but also it begins to modernize systems within the organization. So increasingly you will find that the majority of people will take advantage, especially young people, will take advantage of the electronic systems that are already there. But all other people also who have got a certain level of sophistication, who are already using this kind of devices, would rather vote wherever they are, without having to go and queue or having to travel to a voting station. Perhaps let me stop here, and then we'll be able to deal with the questions, and then Comrade Omri also can add onto the issues that I have raised.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Comrade Malik.
Thanks, Terry. Omri, do you have a 3 cents to contribute on that, or you would like to preserve your resources for next time?
Well, I can just say, in terms of the key issue, of course, would be the auditing part that Comrade Terry spoke about, auditing of the membership, the branches, to make sure that only legible comrades are participating. I think most comrades are aware that we've got accreditation problem at every conference of ANC. All of them, without exception, these elective conferences have had accreditation problems. And this accreditation problem is at the heart of our vote rigging and all the problems. And so auditing of membership will help, and also allowing all members to participate. Then the question of excluding others gets out of the window. It's no longer there as a factor. Because one of the things that people want to go to these elective conferences because they are excluded from voting, they are excluded from nominating their candidates. And this is why you find every elective conference of ANC, there's accreditation problems, fighting over, and meetings and going to court. So we hope this will address this. For now, I'll stop here and allow the audience to comment and ask questions, and we'll respond. Communitary and myself will respond to whatever questions are there outstanding. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Omri. I'm just going to ask probably 1 or 2 questions, and then, of course, this is a freestyle type of discussion. So whoever wants to actually ask a question or make a comment and all of that is actually welcome. So there is no specific set format. We just want to play it freestyle, and then we can be able to actually deal with some of these. But just a quick question for me, and then I hand over to, I think I've got Mark. His hand is up. Terry, can we talk costs? You actually saying this system is actually being implemented in a number of settings. It looks like will be quite smaller settings than the ANC will actually have. And so I'm thinking, one, you're saying the system already exists. Now I just want to get a sense of the cost, how cost effective it is. And then most importantly, I just want you, as you answer that question, to have in mind 2 things. The ANC doesn't have money to pay its staff. So, cost might be a consideration to them. And then, of course, the other aspect is the problem you want to solve is to actually, I've got in mind a sort of a cost benefit type of exercise that I'm actually just busy playing with in my head to actually say, after spending whatever amount of money you have, will we be able to have the outcomes that we actually buying, if I can put it that way, and that is purely not a case of we would have implemented one member, one vote, but I understand one member, one vote being just a means. It's not the end. It's a means to something. Will we be able to get there with whatever amount of money that would have shelled? So that's effectively that. I hope that is clear. But if you don't mind, we'll probably just take a few hands, and then you can probably just do a group reflection on any question or comment. I will take. I think the first one that I actually have is Mark. Mark, go ahead.
Good evening, Omri, and thank you for the invite. Terry,
So,
I have a question.
sorry, Mark. Can you just push the volume up a bit? We
Sorry.
certainly I can't hear you well.
Okay, sorry about that. Is that better? Is that better?
Are we able to hear Mark?
No.
Is that better?
No, we can't hear him.
No, I can't hear.
Can you hear me now?
It
Still too faint.
yeah. We can be able to hear, but you're quite far. You sound like quite fadey.
Okay, that's what happens when you're in Ward 72 in Johannesburg.
Welcome. Okay, let's give it a try, and then I'll probably see if I can be able to assist whoever else hasn't actually been able to hear you well.
Okay, Terry, the question that I have for you is: I received a WhatsApp shortly before this meeting tonight from our branch treasurer in my ward to say that I'm in arrears with my ANC membership, and I'm owing an amount of 40 Rand. Now, I last paid for my membership at the beginning of COVID, and I paid for 5 years. So how are we going to audit the true membership if the main electronic system of the movement is not reflecting the payments that have actually taken place? That's basically the question that I have.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Terry, did you hear that question, or must I repeat it for you?
No, I got it.
Awesome. Well, it looks like, Mark, they were able to hear you after all. We go to Temba.
Good evening, comrades. I'm sorry that I joined the meeting late, but just for clarity's sake from Comrade Tselane. I don't know whether maybe when I joined, you had already discussed the issue of the candidates. How are they going to maybe appear before the actual voting? How are we going to manage the issue of the candidates? In other words, I want to establish whether the candidates, how are we going to manage the issue of candidates campaigning before the actual elections take place? That's just clarity sake. Thanks.
Did you get that, Terry?
Yeah, I got it.
Omri, you got it as well, no? Remember, this is.
I will respond to that one. Yes.
Okay, this is a cockfight. It's not a one man's, fight. Okay, that's great. Do we have any other? Maybe let's effectively deal with what we have, Terry and Omri. The first one, I'm happy if it's the last one. For that matter, you can probably start with the issues raised by Mark, which is straightforward. The issue of audit. If we can't account for 40 Rand or whatever amount that has been paid, how reliable will be the audit? Can you tell us about that aspect? Because that is his question. And then, of course, there is the environment before the actual voting day, within what's going to happen there. And Omri will take that. And then, of course, Terry, my question is on the cost. How big is the price tag? Thanks.
Maybe Comrade Omri can go before me.
Omri.
Oh yes. I can take on that. Comrade Temba, first, let me say that we have prepared a discussion paper for the campaigning process inside the ANC. and that paper will be shared in future
Yes.
to facilitate it. It's dealing with campaigns. But for now, what I would say is that the nomination, if you have seen the discussion paper we presented to Comrade Jeff Harder, is that we expect that the Integrity Commission will play a role, because every candidate will produce a CV, 50-word CV, that will be processed by the Integrity Commission, and then from there, every province, 9 provinces of course, but every province will nominate 4 people for each of the top 6 posts. Let's say for president, let's take Western Cape as an example, just to give you an example. Western Cape will nominate 4 candidates for president. 2 will be male, 2 will be female. And out of that, our idea is that the 2, male and the female, will be from the Western Cape, and the other male and female will be from outside Western Cape, in any of the other 8 provinces. So that's how the nomination will take place. But the processing, the CVs written to the Integrity Commission processing to check whether the CVs are correct and there's no lies in the CVs, and also, of course, checking whether people have got criminal records or no criminal records. All those things will be done before the actual date of elections. So that will be part of the nomination process, and it will be processed by Integrity Commission, most of the things. But this discussion paper I'm talking about, we'll share it in 2 weeks' time, and then I will make sure you get a copy so that you can also see what we think about it. I hope I've answered. I would wish, if it's possible, if you had read the discussion paper, the overall discussion paper, most of these things are explained inside there. But if you have not, some of them we'll try and explain today. Thank you, Comrade Malik.
Thanks, Omri. I mean, I think in a nutshell, something that we need to remember about the proposition at the end, I'm very happy that Omri is actually alive to that reality. This proposition is a tool in a toolbox. It's not like, it's not a blue pill or whatever. So you will actually have to get something, other things lined up to make sure that it actually works. As we said here the other time when we discussed this, if the fish pond is full of tadpoles and fishes, it really, doesn't really matter much what type of tool do you use to fish, because you're more likely to get tadpoles, if there are more tadpoles than fishes. So it's key to actually clean up the pond as well, which I think this is what the ANC in some way is trying to do. And I think the previous question also talks to that. Terry, go ahead. I'm sure you've managed to sort out the issues you wanted to raise.
Yeah, let me also just add on to what Comrade Omri was saying. Remember that the system that we are recommending, it's a hybrid system. So the electronic part will have an element where, firstly, the bios of people who are campaigning or who are candidates would actually be there, so for everybody can actually be able to see on the website. But secondly, that as part of the election timetable or the milestones that I spoke about, there will also be a period within which candidates can actually contest. They'll be given a platform similar to the platform that we're currently using, where they can actually be able to talk. So the website that you have, which is similar to what we already have when we are using electronic voting system in the universities, the candidates are able to campaign virtually in the platform. You give them a particular number of, you give them a particular time or a slot for each candidate to be able to speak. And then this can be coordinated at national and provincial level, depending on where the campaigning is taking place. But secondly, so that we don't end up only focusing on electronic mechanism as a means through which people can campaign, that platforms should also be created, similar to the lectures that people normally have on a particular subject. So if candidates at the branch level, there is a branch meeting where those who are coming from the locality or wherever they're coming from are given a platform to talk about what they are able to offer as candidates in a particular election. So you still use those kind of mechanisms. And then if I could just give an example, because this is not something that is new to South Africa. Quite a number of countries, particularly in the African continent, are using what they call primaries, where you are having the election of candidates who are going to be standing as candidates for those political parties. So see this more or less as a system of creating primaries for candidates to basically talk about what they think they can be able to offer. Now, on the area of the area that was raised by Mark about the membership, how do you do an audit? In fact, the reason why he is talking about the issue that is currently there, that problem, is the reason why you've got to audit. Because you can't just leave the problem and say, we have this kind of problems and therefore we are not going to be able to understand exactly what we have. If during the audit you find that the system is so contaminated to the extent that you cannot actually use it, it means you've got to start afresh. You've got to now go on a voter registration for members only. And start the process completely afresh using both the electronic and the same system that I spoke about, where now you open you open voting or registration in the voting stations, almost like what we have in a national election. So you firstly have got to establish the nature of the problem you have. Is what we have something that we can actually work on? If it is not something, if after the audit you find that the system is so contaminated to the extent that you cannot actually use this information, then it would mean start afresh. Let every person who wants to be a member now apply properly. Open your voting stations in each ward, as I suggested earlier on, for registration purposes, but also those who can do it electronically, let them do it electronically, so that you've got a system that you can actually be able to use in an election. Now, Comrade Malik, you asked the question in terms of the cost. Well, it depends what system you want to use and then what it's based on. Is it a system that is going to be completely new, or are you using something off the shelf that you can just improve? There is a system already, for instance, that we use. We just use that platform as part of our electronic voting platform. It's called Elections Body. So that Elections Body basically can be able to assist, and it gives you different rates for, whichever way you're going to be using it for. It depends on the number of people who are going to be using the system. You can use for a smaller population, you can use for a bigger population. So it depends. But in my opinion, because remember that before you go to the elective conferences, you've got so many branch BGMs, you've got regional conferences, you've got national conferences. So you will be saving on some of the costs that you are already incurring in all these elective conferences that you have. It does not mean, of course, that you're going to completely do away with conferences. So you can defray the cost against what you normally spend money on. But I don't want to say that it is going to be a cheap system. It is still going to be a little bit pricey, but compared to the nature, to the kind of the problems that you are dealing with, it is better to spend more money creating a better system that has got credibility and integrity than to continue with a system that we all accept is contaminated and is vulnerable to manipulation. I hope I've answered all the questions.
Thank you. Thanks, Terry. I think John's hand was up and it disappeared. And now we have Zeni. John, your hand, is it been withdrawn because you got tired having it up, or your question was answered?
My question was answered. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks. Sir. Zeni. Comrade Zeni.
Yeah, thanks, comrades, and for this very informative and necessary, long overdue process that South Africa or the ANC should have been doing long before, because now there is technology which was not here before when the ANC started with this system of voting. What I wanted to find out, how popularized has this system been made, and so that people should buy into it, because you'll find that not many people, within the ANC are buying into this and have been influenced to take this forward. Another thing that I wanted to find out is, can we, is there going to be a voter registration like the national elections, where you go and verify if your name is in the voters roll, so that you don't find people saying that my name is not there, and not finding the problem like Mark, that you haven't paid and all those things, so that you should, before the voting takes place, you should have checked if you are in the voters roll. And with the nomination, is the system not being able to be cheated on for people who are not members of the ANC, who will nominate the names of those that they want to be in the leadership? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Comrade. Any other question, comment, before we hand over to Terry and Omri? Okay, Terry and Omri.
Let me deal with the issue of the nominations. I think the question that is being raised is, how do we ensure that only members of the ANC participate in the process, that we don't find non-members participating? Now, remember that I've suggested two processes in terms of this hybrid system. The first one is the electronic mechanism, and the second one, it's at a branch level or at the voting station level. Let me use the election link group because I think it is a lot much more easier if I use that language. So I suggested that you study firstly with the audit to try to determine the nature of the problem. Do you have a problem? How widespread is this problem? And is this problem fixable? I mean, can you fix it within the current system, or will it require you to start afresh, almost like we did in 1998 in South Africa, because we did not have a voters roll. So we had to get everybody to go to a voting station to go and register for the first time to establish the kind of a voters roll that we have. So if the problem is so massive that you cannot actually fix what is currently there, then the recommendation is that you start afresh. And then those who've got access to the electronic mechanism will be able to use the access they have, and then those who do not will go to a voting station to go and register afresh. And now, when it comes to nomination as well as the election, how do you ensure that only those who are eligible are participating? Remember, you've got a voters' roll. I've suggested that you have a voters' roll that is going to be applicable and available at the voting station level. And secondly, those who are going to be using electronic mechanism. Ordinarily, what we do when it comes to electronic voting, we send to a specific email that has been made available a code, and that particular person will use that code as almost as a PIN, almost like when you go to the bank, you've got your own PIN as an individual that you use to be able to access funds from the ATM machine. So each and every member will be given a PIN that they use. That PIN, you only use it once, and then once you have submitted information, you can no longer use it again. So that's how the system works in order to make sure that only those who are eligible are participating in the process. At the voting station level, it's much more easier because we've got a hard copy of the voters' roll that will ensure that only those who are there on the voters' roll participate. I've indicated as well that because you do not want to allow, or you do not want to create a situation where now those who have voted electronically, they go to the voting station to go and cast now a manual vote. You create a period within which those who are supposed to be participating electronically participate electronically, and then from there you shut the system, and nobody can be able to access it. And if you had not had an opportunity to vote, you will then, in a week or two, have an opportunity to do so at your voting station level. And the issue of how this discussion has been popularized in the organization, I think Comrade Omri can respond to that aspect because he's the one who's largely been driving it.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much, Comrade Thierry. I don't see any other hands. Do we have any other comment? Input?
I have to comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Let me comment. Basically, the electoral reforms, inside the ANC, I've been on this campaign maybe for more than 10 years now. The first time when we initiated this was before Mangaung conference, and it has not been possible to have it within the branches of ANC because of the reasons we all know, I think, the gatekeeping and the capture of the branches. So I was never given a chance in the branches to present these proposals. And that's when I started to write articles of newspapers to talk about this. I'm sorry to say so, but I must tell you the truth. That's when I started writing articles. Before I never wrote any article before that. But this was the only way through articles of communicating the need for the electoral reforms inside the ANC. So it's because of the systems inside the ANC that they've not allowed that this could be done earlier on. So for now, Comrade Zeni, that will be my response. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Thomo. Thanks for that. Comrade Kuzane?
Thank you very much, Comrade Malek. Can you hear me?
Very well. Thank you.
No, thanks very much, comrades. I think I will agree that the system definitely needed to be popularized so that indeed the period that Comrade Omre spent to try to popularize this could be shortened. However, I'm of the view, rather I believe also that we have some quarters of the movement who have started to embrace the idea because I think I heard at some point some comrades from the Youth League also advancing this idea. And then also MK Liberation War veterans have also maybe embraced the idea and then advocating for it also as it happened in the what you call the policy conference. Now, I think it is one other thing that needs to be looked at. It be not comrade raise problem alone, but rather it be something that it is canvassed broadly, especially by those, the likes of Liberation War veterans of MK, trying to, broaden the space and then advance into other organizations to popularize this, because failure which comrades, I think we're going to have a big problem trying to rescue the situation as we see it now. That's one other thing. The second thing is, I know maybe this could be might be premature that more as we're advancing this idea, definitely other people will start to find themselves, their backs being against the wall, because they benefit a lot from this, as could be their long plan. What I'm trying to talk about is the form of, the best way to, to avoid any manipulation on the system itself. I think community will help us there, because there are those people who are mostly, the wizards when it comes to what is this to electronic systems, who can be able to be there and manipulate system in a way like I think there must be some kind of a command center that will help this, which also will enable, or rather will dispel any suspicion of rigging, like observers and so on. It's just a pity that I couldn't get to read through the paper that was prepared on this, but I was just talking in terms of the practicalities of this. But on a question of popularizing this, I think that will be the urgent task. That means that must be undertaken, because we can't wait any longer. This is one step to help us to rid the movement of these problems that it is engulfed with. Thank you very much, comrades.
Thank you very much for that wonderful comment. Do we have any other? I think while we are thinking, one of the things that I just wanted to do is just to acknowledge some of my colleagues and comrades who are actually in the. At the beginning, I did indicate that we have been running this program as some form of support and advocacy, running this strategic session since last year. And effectively, we are just a group of friends and comrades who actually think alike and would like to see certain things happening. And some of those are actually here today. So I just wanted them, if they can, just to greet, if anything. Comrade Mbulelo Mosi is here. He also happens to be the new MK LWV National Political Commissar, and they are in the leadership together with Comrade Mpumelelo Cindi. We call him Ray in MK. They are also here, and of course there are other comrades. But I just thought that it would be in good put me in good stead to make the audience know that they are actually here with us, and if they want to greet and make any comment, they do have the platform. I'm also not one of those people who like to drag a session longer when there isn't much else to talk about. So that would be the next thing that we'll actually have to decide on. But Moss, do you want to greet if you can? I know it's an ambush. And Ray, do you want to greet if you can? I know it's an ambush. Ray, Moss, are you there, or is it the machines that are there? Maybe you have avatars. Like it's the era of 4IR, and maybe people have got avatars there and we don't know. Well, I take it maybe they're not really able to hear. But at any rate, is there any other question or comment?
Yes, I have a comment if nobody wants to talk anymore.
Go ahead, because then I was going to come back to you and Terry anyway to have your closing remarks in the absence of.
Yeah, I'll also say something, Comrade Malik. Sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah. I didn't realize that you. Yeah, you can. Omri, can you take Ray quickly? And then hopefully Moss, if he's able to as well at some point. But
Oh, yeah, no.
go ahead.
No, Komsa Malik, thanks for the opportunity, and thanks to our presenters for the nice presentation, especially Comrade Terry, now Comrade Omri. And I think they've been doing this for us for quite some time. But I think I like to say I'm seeing progress in the whole thing, in that for the first time now we're starting to concretize the concept, and it looks now more than real. We started with it with Comrade Ombre. We took it to us in MK. We endorsed it. We like it. We went to the policy conference. People liked it, and we're still here. And it sounds very good and nice. And I would say I would like to encourage comrades to hold on to the idea. It's one of the best things that we can do for organization in our country. And thanks for everything.
Thanks, Comrade Ray. Mbulelo, are you there? Okay, yeah. Omri, you go ahead, and then we're gonna give to Terry to have his closing remark.
Yes, thank you, comrades, first for attending. My appeal to you all is that according to ANC structures, according to ANC procedures, this has to be adopted by branches. This policy has to be adopted by branches. So I'm requesting you, appealing to you, that go to your branches. I'm available to come and present at any of your branches this proposal for discussion. We are ready for workshops, for discussions on this proposal, so that your branch members can understand the proposal in a very clear way, because people will not adopt something they don't understand. So we have to make sure that all branch members who are interested, get a chance to listen to it, get a chance to interrogate the proposal, get a chance to understand it fully, and then adopt it at their branches, wherever the branches are functioning. I know most of the branches are not functioning, but those that are functioning, if they can adopt this proposal, then in December, when we go to the elective conference in December, the proposal will stand a better chance of going through to be adopted. Thank you very much, comrades. Thank you.
Thanks, Omri. Can we give you, Terry, your closing remarks then?
Thank you once again. I think emanating from this discussion, one has got now to begin to look, even if it's just at a very loose level, has got to look at the issue of possible costing and what kind of structures could be put in place in order to be able to drive this kind of strategy. But also, in line with what Dr. Kuzan was saying earlier on, of creating a command center. I understood the command center that he's talking about to be basically a structure that will be able to coordinate and to ensure that there is safeguards and that there is no manipulation and undue interference with the system. So those are some of the issues that I would say would be part of the next steps in relation to this particular concept as we continue to popularize it.
Thank you very much, Terry, for that. Commissioner Mojaki, I know you just joined now, right? when we're actually almost saying, the last word there, you're coming right at the tail end. But we are happy to actually just give you a minute, or sorry, a moment to actually just leave your stone, because you did say that you might come around about this time, but this has been one of the shortest ones you've had, and that's a very good thing. But you know the topic. You have been part of the system. You're part of us. So do you want to greet, and then we close it? We leave it there.
So I am the bishop now that I simply can't.
Well, Terry was the bishop, but we're just doing an affirmative action with you now. So let's just see how that far will go.
No, thanks, comrades. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Comrade Terry. Comrade Omri, I want to thank you very much, very, very seriously so, because I know this is a passionate topic to both of you. And fortunately, it is a national question that has to be addressed. Failure to do so will lead to a detrimental situation and derailment of the national democratic revolution that you want to pursue. I've gone through the documents that you prepared in the past, and then I was fortunate enough also to interact with that at the LWV conference that was held in East London. And then in pursuance to that, I really urged quite a number of comrades, even from the meeting that I was addressing today, that this topic should actually be tabled before the conference of the ANC that will be held in December. And the resolute stand and position should actually be taken on that. Because if you look into what is it that it wants to achieve, it will be able to remove the cult and inculcate meritocracy, which is what we all need in order to have the quality type of leadership that will lead us. People who will be rooted in their branches, people who will be rooted in their communities, people who will be affectionately appreciated in their societies, and people who can become the assets of the nation in the broader sense. And this comrades ngasho nje ngamakhosi esho ukuthi ikhosi alipheli umoya. Masingapheli umoya. Let us soldier on. Let us fight for this to be realized. And if it is possible, I will propose that we should facilitate a meeting with the policy committee of the ANC, where we will sit down with them and unpack this whole project to them, including the Electoral Commission of the ANC. So the two committees of the ANC should actually be engaged and seek to find a common ground on these things. We know it is not going to be implemented in December. It will not be practiced in December. But once it is adopted in December, then we can know that henceforth we'll be having the type of a system where all members of the ANC, in particular in this regard, will have a say and a vote in whoever is going to lead them at whatever level, it be branch, zone, region, province, or national. So that in preparation, in having that type of people that will be elected and appreciated and accepted by the communities, it will be then easier to transfer that into the national entity when the national elections come in 2024, that at least it might actually be tabled and be adopted as the law of South Africa. In that way, we have gone a milestone. This is the legacy that you cannot let go. This is the only final contribution that you can have in ascertaining that, in true sense of the 1956 revolution, the people shall govern. The people we can only say the people shall govern if no government can justly claim to be the leader of the community if it is not based on the will of the people. And the will of the people will not be the selected individuals, but it will be every member, every adult citizen of South Africa who has the right to vote, who will say, yes, Mojaki is the president because I made him the president. Or who will say, even if I did not vote for Mojaki to become the president, but his presidency can yield the type of fruits and progress, and revolutionary progress that we all envisage in building a very strong social cohesion and nation building in our country. I am 100% with you, comrades. I agree absolutely with the unfolding, the unpacking of this particular topic, not only in the ANC, but in the country in general. It's unfortunate that I cannot comment on whatever you said previously. But I think I'm echoing the sentiments that were articulated by the presenter and the chair of this meeting, including the participants at large. Let me thank you very, very profusely for the contribution that you are making. Masina Pelu Moya, this is not the end, it is the beginning. There is no road that goes to success that is not full of roughage. It is the roughness of that, it is the valleys and the slopes that will be there. It is the rocks that we'll find on our way that will make our come victorious and be proud of what we will have done for the nation. Aluta continua. Pambiri Neshimurenga. Thank you, Comrade Chair.
Okay, thanks, Mujaki. Comrades, thank you very much. I mean, unless there is anyone who will feel offended if they haven't said anything here today, but definitely we will be back here next week again, a different topic. So we keep it there. But thank you very much for your hard work. I mean, Terry, thanks a lot for the time that you've actually put aside on this. We will definitely have to compile, some form of a report, a document as we did last time, and then we use that to try and lobby, further on this, as both Omri, yourself, and Ray and others have actually said. But on my side, please stay safe. Those who are on the road, drive safely, and we keep it going. La lucha continua. Amanda. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Night. Thanks, comrades. Ciao.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Yeah, post 94 comrades. They can't even say Amanda. So.
No.
Yeah, no, like the mouths are too busy with tenders. They can't. Like, you can't talk and eat at the same time. It's understandable. Go.
No, you can't say Amandla away too when it is not the truth. Amandla see away too. It belongs to somebody else who's in power.
Okay.
So I don't say Amandla. I don't say Amandla even when I address. I rather say Viva ANC and keep quiet.
Okay.
Amandla.
Yeah. Awesome. Cheers, comrade.
Thank you, comrades. Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you.